Well, that was an interesting crash. I was going pretty full speed, and my buddy Mike was trying to join the track, and we had a midair. So I did some damage on that one. It happens. We just have to pick a spot where you join the track when there's like a turn or something, so it's a little bit slower. So, kind of like an on ramp. So we'll have to figure that one out. See, we learn something new every day. So this is a sidebar, and the reason I'm calling it a sidebar is before I go into the chapters. So I was gonna do a chapter 1 momentum, and I've already recorded that. I just haven't put it together or posted it. But before that, somebody suggested that I do talk about a little bit of the factors of setup. And by setup, as I said before, I'm not going to go into specific motors, ESCs, flight controllers, but general setup, camera angles, batteries, props, 2.5 minutes, the combination of the things that allow you to run 2.5 minutes and super fast or twisty courses, that kind of setup. So first let's talk about camera angle. As you can see right here, if we put it flat on the desk, the camera's pointing up, and obviously that's, when you're sitting on the ground, you're about ready to take off, you may or may not see the ground. And that's okay because you're taking off, you're not moving. The trick is when you're landing. And I find that when you land, you just come in and keep doing a spiral as you head towards the ground. When you get real close, just kill it, disarm it. And if you have it set up so that it disarms but still flies, and then actually disarms when you go to throttle 0, that might be a good way. And then as soon as you touch the ground, instead of air mode bouncing you everywhere, you just disarm it, and it might roll once or twice, but it should be fine. Getting a little ahead of myself there. So the camera. So the reason it's pointed up is obviously we all know when you're flying and you're flying forward at any rate of speed, if the camera's pointed level while it's on the ground, when you're flying forward, you'll be pointing down at the ground, and you won't see where you're going, or you'd have to go pretty slow. It'll limit your speed. The camera angle is somewhat of a speed limiter. On the other hand, it can also be a detriment when you're actually going slow. So I've got to point it to like almost 35 degrees up, I'd say. And when you're going really slow, then you can't see the ground, and you won't know if you're, let's say you're doing a really tight slalom. You don't know if you're going to bounce your battery off the ground. So there's this kind of trick. It's not a trick. What I mean is it's something you have to discover. Your best camera angle. And obviously if you're going super fast and you need to pitch that camera angle really high up, then you either are really good where you can do those tight maneuvers and still keep the speed up where your camera's pointing down, like this, or if you're the kind of racer where you go super fast and super slow, then you'll know that you'll need a wider angle lens. I don't like 2.1 millimeter lenses. Oh, and you know what? I find that people who use the headsets, like what do you call it? The Get FPV one, the head plates. The screen is so large. The first time I tried that on, my eyeballs were looking around. That's how big that screen is. So on something like that, if you go to a 2.1, and one of my friends, Jared, one of our racers, he uses a 1.8. And he says it's not too much different from a 2.1, but on a headset like that, if you're using 2.1, that's understandable because, there's so much real estate that if you're focusing just mostly on the center most of the time, and then the wide screen makes up for it on the edges, you get to see everything else, that's okay. But I fly with goggles, like the Fat Sharks, and a 2.1, I've tried a 2.1, and you get such a fisheye effect, and the gates are so small, and then as you approach them, they get so large so fast because of that distortion. So I like 2.5 or the GoPro lens. The GoPro 2 lens, I feel like it's like a 2.3 or something, a little bit wider than the 2.5. But there's another disadvantage to the GoPro lens nobody mentioned. There's a weird refraction thing going on where you see like white dots in sunlight, one or two. Anyway, you get to live with that. You get to learn to deal with that, but still it's there. So the lens, that's one aspect that's kind of you have to discover on your own. unfortunately. And more than likely, here's the way I started out. When I'm sitting on the ground flat, the props are parallel to the ground. If the camera angle with a 2.8 was such that I could just see the ground, the horizon, that was perfect for me starting out. But I started out, I had before I raced, I was flying FPV for a couple of years. So even when I started racing, I wasn't going super slow, I wasn't going super fast. Let's call myself an intermediate, beginner slash intermediate, almost starting out. So, but if I were you, I would start with a 2.5 right away, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And point the lens so that, again, you see maybe a little bit of the ground, about a quarter, maybe an eighth to a quarter way up your screen. I believe that'd probably be the good setup. That way, when if you're going really fast, you'll still see the horizon. And when you're going really fast, I don't think it's necessary, like at your highest speed, there's no need to have the horizon midway up your screen, because at what point will you have the horizon higher, right? So I mean, do you need to have a really clear view of the sky? I realize a lot of these days courses have vertical elements to them, but by the time you see it and approach it, you shouldn't be pointing at the horizon anyway. You'll be tilting up towards it. So in my opinion, at your fastest speed, if the horizon is about 2/3 to the top of your screen, then I think that's a pretty reasonable. You don't want the horizon to be above the top, because then obviously you're not going to see what's coming up really fast. But then again, you don't need it to have it at halfway up your screen. So I think at the 2/3 up. So I believe that's and then if you're somewhere near just viewing the ground, the horizon on the ground when you're sitting level, that's probably a good way to judge. And again, that's just my opinion. If you find that you're going faster and need more, angle, and you like to see the horizon halfway up your screen, that's whatever makes you comfortable. But that's a good place to start for those people who are wondering where to even start. Okay, so that's camera angle, respect to goggles, head plays, that kind of thing. Okay, propellers. These days 5x4, 5x3 is pretty much the norm, and if you're just starting out, I know there's those new Racecraft 50-51 props, and I'm going to be honest, I love them for racing. I've seen people review them, say they're... Oh, I think I have some right here. People review them and say they don't like them, and then I watch the review video and they're doing freestyle. Well, I can't imagine these props would be good for freestyle. So I think they're good for racing. Number one, they're going to kill your battery for freestyle, because for freestyle you basically, you're at max throttle a lot, and then you kill it and then do your stunts. And again, I'm not a freestyle guy. I mean, I can do a little bit, but that's not my main thing. So that's, I'm slightly talking out of my butt here, but for freestyle, you're going to be at full throttle for some periods of time, and of course you're going to land with some puffy batteries. Racing, depending on the course, typically the courses that I've been on, you don't spend that much time full throttle. So that's why these are so good, because they have so much, full throttle, they will have some speed and they will kill your batteries, but at the lower throttles, they have like a torque. If you're racing on a parking lot course like in Solo 2 or something, the car with lots of torque, the V8s, they did really well generally, because they can accelerate so hard out of the turns, versus like a 4-cylinder naturally aspirated. You got to spin those motors up, and by the time you spin it up, you're already halfway towards, or more than halfway towards your next corner. So you want that acceleration. For me in a race, it's not the top speed that's important, because I barely ever hit top speed. It's that acceleration to either, for two things: accelerate out of a turn, or think about it this way: you're going forward, you go around a gate and you want to reverse direction quickly, so you flip around, and while you're still heading backwards, blip the throttle and you'll slow down. It's a way of braking. And if you have a lot of power acceleration out of your props, you can slow down, brake, make your transitions faster. So that's why I really do like these props. Oh hey, look, got my AMA sticker in the mail. Join if you haven't. They're doing good. And places are getting hard to fly. It's you have to show the authorities, forest preserve people, and we go through this a lot. you have to show them that you're part of an organized group and you're responsible and safe. So join. Okay. Plus, if you've never been to the facilities in Muncie, you gotta go. I mean, as an AMA member, you can basically go there and fly whenever you want if there's no event going on and stuff. But and it's a fantastic place to go. I mean, it's a little far, but it's a great place. So yeah, the props, and the other thing you have to balance is the course. And that's something you're just gonna figure out with experience. Is it a fast course? If you put these aggressive props on, if it's a fast course, is your battery gonna last? Oh, and I, speaking of batteries, so let's move on to batteries. One other thing. So these are $4 a set. These you can get for like $2. Well, these are racecraft, so these are like $2.99 a set, the older ones. And then there's the King Kongs and Dals, and they're like. And I know a lot of people are saying they've got issues with them and they break, but they're like $1.99 a set, or maybe a little bit less if you get certain colors, like pink. So when you're just starting out, you don't need these. You're not going to be taking super advantage of these, and maybe you won't even be able to tell the difference. I know people who say they've tried these racecraft props and they can't tell the difference because they're not there yet. To be perfectly blunt, they're just not there yet. They will at some point, but just not now. So to begin with, don't spend too much money on props because you're going to go through them. And even though they're unbreakable, you bend them back, they fly fine. After a period of time, even after you bend them back a couple times, it's better just to ditch them and put new ones on. And I recommend the 5x4 5x3s versus the 5x4x3s because the 5x4 5s are more durable. They're thicker. They're heavier, yes. And the 5x4x3s, generally when you crash, they're going to break more often. So these might even survive a gate hit and either let you keep going or you might land and you'll be able to take off again. So that's my opinion on props. And for batteries, 1300s are the general rule. There are some new batteries. Battery technology changes so fast, but there's some 1500s now, the Infinity graphenes that Joshua Bardwell reviewed, and he said they were good. So I've got a few of those, and I've only put a couple flights on it. And I'll be honest, any battery seems fantastic when you first get it, but after you charge them 50 times, then that's really when they start to show the differences. So far the Infinities, I really like them. I think they're pretty good. I've also got an Tattoo R-Line 1550, and it's got incredibly heavy, but it's 95C supposedly, and it feels good too. But they felt just, and I have a comparison video, and believe it or not, the Infinities I think might have done slightly better, maybe because they weigh less. But anyway, so depending on the course, if you have a longer course and a little bit higher speed, you may need the 1500. So if I were you, try to buy mostly 1300s and maybe have just enough 1500s to last you a race. So let's say you do practice rounds, 2 practice rounds on 1300s, and you get 5 rounds of racing. You may want to get 5 Infinity batteries. I mean, $20 each when they were on sale might run you $100, but that'd be worth it if you're serious enough about racing and you want to finish the race. Then the 1500s might be worth it. So yeah, okay. So batteries. What did I talk about? Batteries, props. Camera angle, let's see, motors. Again, if you're just starting out, go for efficiency. Maybe you want that balance. You want that balance of efficiency or power. But if you plan on getting a lot of sessions in, practicing, getting better fast, get some decent motors because it won't take you long. And motors, yeah, there's new motors coming out, like it seems like every couple weeks, but these motors, these red bottoms, are still very competitive. They're still powerful. So get some decent motors, and you're not going to spend too much more on decent motors. So let's say you get these red bottoms for like 16, and you can get some cheaper motors for like 11. Come on, the $5 more per motor, the $20 total, it's worth it. It really is. And also on the other hand, you don't need like the most powerful motors. You don't need to get like 2207s that are 35 grams and provide like 1600 grams of thrust. That's I'm gonna be honest, that's pointless. That's for racing, and I know people are experimenting with 5S, and if you're going 90 to 100 miles an hour, you're probably never gonna hit that in a race unless somebody's setting up a course just for you, just for that setup. You really need that low end torque, the low end speed, the acceleration. So that power might be good for just coming out of a turn, but consider this: if your gas pedal in a car travels this much and you go 30 miles per hour, you can modulate between 0 and 30 by the amount of travel in your gas pedal, right? Let's say most of your time is spent driving between 0 and 30 miles per hour locally, driving back and forth from school or something. You can modulate your speed, right? But if your gas pedal goes from 0 to 150 miles per hour and you do most of your driving from 0 to 30 miles per hour, how are you going to modulate that? You have like like 6 millimeters of travel that you're going to be using most of the time. You know what I'm saying? So if you can go 100 miles an hour on your quad, your left thumb, I don't know how accurate yours is, but you're going to be hunting a lot, just trying to keep your nominal speeds up. So just consider that. Okay, so props, motors, batteries, camera angle. I'm not sure what else we need to cover for basic setup. So it's really just experience, and as you fly around, and if you can't see the next gate, you may need a wider angle lens. And if you're staring at the ground, just try messing with camera angles and camera lenses. Again, I think the one that most people can live with using goggles is 2.5, or the GoPro lens, which is I think right around 2.5, a little bit less, I would say. Yeah. Okay, let's try to get in the next chapter. Oh yeah, another part of this sidebar is so this is going to help me personally, and I think it might help everybody else, because one thing I've been doing it when we meet up and fly with friends is I can tell that I'm taking turns better, and I can tell from lap to lap. So I'll do one lap and I'll take some turns, and I'll say, you know what, I think I can smooth this turn out, and I'll do it, and I think, oh, next time, oh, that was great. But I have no qualitative or quantitative way of measuring it. So if you have a timing system, so from one lap to another, this is going to be fantastic. If I did take a smoother turn, did it really help? Well, I'll know now. And for this is $59. I think this is fantastic. For you don't have to go out, set up a laptop, a wire, and those timing systems have been great in the races. I love the way they work. But if this is as accurate as they say, even if it's just a tenth of a second, although the hundredth is really ideal, but and it does give you times in hundredths of a second, but I don't know what the accuracy is. There's nothing as part of the literature that says the accuracy is within like 300ths, 500ths, or whatever, so I'm not really sure. But still, that timing, I mean, typically my laps differ from anywhere from half a second to a full second, so even if I can get that kind of history from lap to lap, I think it'll help me improve. So I'll know if what I'm doing lap to lap is improving my flying. So I think something like this, if you're just starting out, don't need it. Somebody with a stopwatch, or a friend saying, hey, you're taking this turn kind of wide, or you can smooth out this turn, or you can do that slalom better, will help you a lot and enough. And if he's looking through your goggles, he can help you. But for the person whose changes are more subtle, and it's difficult to tell difference lap to lap, you need a way to time it. And I think this is going to be a game changer, so I can't wait to try this. Cool. All right, I might do a review on that separately as well. Alrighty.